Hi class. Today I'm going to continue to build on last week's topic. This is my audience. Have you ever tried to braid your daughter's hair using just one hand? Or have you ever attempted to make the peanut butter and jelly sandwich using just one hand? Last week I attempted to do both and failed miserably. These are just two examples of disabilities due to a loss of a hand or a finger. Disabilities due to a loss of a hand or finger will affect and change the way you live. However, proper use of personal protective equipment can reduce and eliminate injuries. I'd like to begin by telling you guys a short story. This story is about a guy named J.J. Braddock, also known as Jimmy. The story I'm about to tell you has a movie. The movie's called Cinderella Man. It came out in 2005. Jimmy was once a local prize fighter who turned out to become the heavyweight champ of the world. He earned the title Cinderella Man because of this short tale I'm about to tell you. This story took place during the Great Depression. Jimmy broke his hand during a fight one time. After he broke his hand, he couldn't work anymore. He wrapped it up. Due to the circumstances, Jimmy continued to look for work. He didn't have much success. One day, Jimmy went down to the docks to look for work. He went and found a local fisherman who needed help unloading and loading shipping containers. So there was a bunch of people out front looking for work. In a group of 30-40 men, Jimmy knew he didn't have much chance with an injured hand. So he wrapped his hand the best he could, hid it behind his back, and got into the crowd waving, trying to get the boss man's attention. Eventually he did, and he was picked. Luckily, he found work for the day. However, the circumstances changed very quickly. The tour boss put him with another worker, and the other worker noticed that Jimmy was having trouble due to his hurt hand. Immediately, the other worker stopped and told Jimmy, "Hey man, I don't want to work with you. I'm going to tell the boss, you're injured, you're going to get us both fired." Jimmy confronted the guy, and he asked him, please don't tell. I have a wife and family at home and I need to work just as bad. I promise I'll be able to keep up." Being the good man that his coworker was, he took his advice and allowed him to work. The reason I'm telling you this story is because I want you guys to know that if you're a boxer or a normal worker like myself, an injury to your hand, whether it's broken or loss of a finger, will not only affect you physically, but it can change the way you think, and it can also affect you financially. The physical and mental condition of disabilities will affect you. First, I'd like to mention some PPE that we commonly use in the workforce. The proper use of gloves can eliminate injuries. Let's think of different jobs for a moment. I mentioned a boxer earlier. A boxer uses personal protective equipment, such as a mouth guard and a cup, wrist wraps, and other things to help prevent injuries. In the manufacturing industry, where I work, we use gloves, cut-resistant gloves, we use oven mitts, and other personal protective equipment to reduce or eliminate injuries. Also, in doing household chores, such as cooking and baking, we use oven mitts or heat-resistant mitts to pull hot pans out of the oven. These types of PPE can eliminate or reduce burns, cuts, scratches, or other dangers. However, one person may argue or have a concern that how can we trust how effective PPE is? For instance, at work, when I'm first hired, how can I trust that the gloves I'm wearing are cut resistant? Just because my coworker or my boss tells me? Inside of my head, I'm thinking, will this really stop a razor blade? True enough, we'll never find out. But due to a demonstration that I provided with you guys a few weeks ago, I was able to test out if this PPE was or was not effective. Also, when we use oven mitts to pull cakes out of the oven, we come out unharmed. So most likely, the PPE that you are wearing will be effective. I would also like to talk to you guys about another issue that I had with PPE. How uncomfortable it is, and how it can be a hassle to use. The more resistant gloves are to either temperature or cuts, the thicker and bulkier they become. They will be uncomfortable, so you have to try on whatever you find, or whatever your employer has, that you feel most comfortable working in. For instance, at my job we have 3 or 4 different types of gloves. Now, OSHA requires that your employer, if your employer requires PPE, to also provide and pay for the PPE that it requires. So, most likely, in many cases, if you ask your employer for a different pair because of the uncomfortableness or because of the hazard, they will accommodate. Secondly, I'd also remind you that it's better to be safe than sorry. Even though it may be uncomfortable or may be a hassle, would you rather suffer an injury due to a hand burn, chop your finger off, or cut your finger off, break your hand? These examples will definitely put you out of work. Last week I mentioned some statistics from the Bureau of Labor and Statistics, and they mentioned that in the industrial manufacturing industry, 1/3 of the injured employees lost 6 days of work, and this was due to a hand or a lost finger, Anybody who hurt their hand or hurt their finger lost 6 days of work. The average U.S. worker made $33 an hour. The math comes out to that person losing $1,500 or so. Not only is your hand going to hurt, not only are you going to have doctor bills, but you're going to miss out on some days' work. Many Americans don't have very much savings, and this can affect you in many ways. I would like to conclude with this story. This is a fishing story that I'd like to tell you guys. One Sunday evening, I was with a friend, and we were fishing. After I caught a fish, I usually have a glove on. This glove protects my thumbs and my fingers from getting cut. Makes also handling fish a lot easier. Well, one day, a friend of mine was fishing with me, and guess what happened? He stuck his finger inside of a fish's mouth, cut his finger on the hook, and also with the fish's mouth. It hurt him, he cried out in pain, but then at the same time, he used a little logic and reasoning, and he really understood why I wear a glove on my hand while fishing. Sure, I was called some names. Sure, he was making jokes about me wearing this glove. But you should always protect yourself from hazards if you have the possibility to do so. Use your best judgment in hazardous situations and always wear your PPE. Thanks, guys.